Hey, what's going on everybody? Today in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my recent map called Paradise City. This map is available on all platforms, so if you're on PlayStation 4 or Xbox, you can play this map. However, on Xbox, for some reason, Paradise was being flagged, so the map unfortunately is just called City. And I know there's going to be a lot of maps you have to cycle through with that name, but it is available on Xbox to play it. PS4, it's called Paradise City, so it'll be a little easier to find on PS4, and it's also on PC, of course. But I've always gotten some comments asking me to break down some of my larger maps, and I've been meaning to do Canton City, but that map is so large, and I'm just afraid my computer can't run the whole map and record at the same time just because of how big that map is and the frame rate's so low. But I'm definitely gonna try it out to see. But Paradise City, here it is, and we're gonna just break it down. Let's see, script. So I guess I'll show you guys the scripting, how I have all that set up. Scripting here, we have 2 volumes going over the entire map. One of these, I can't remember which one goes where. One of them I think spawns in this four-wheeler over here. And then, well, let me see, I think I have the script over here, so let me see. Nope, not that one, this one. Okay, yeah, so it does control that script. And then the other one is, I think for this script over here, to guide the player where the gun shop is. I believe. Let me see. Yes. And then we have another script here. And this is the time of day, this long one. I don't know why it's so short. But this will change the time of day and get the day and night cycle started. So speaking of the day and night cycle, I'll show you guys how I have that set up. So you go under the map, and I have a volume, a generic sound volume around this whole setup because there's an AI character here, and the AI character is designed to walk his way down and fall into the fire pit here and die. And so I don't want the player to be playing the map and hear some random screaming, so I put this volume around this entire setup so that way you don't hear the AI character screaming. But yeah, we have several spheres that will spawn on the platform and they will roll down towards the fire pit. And I have them marked with daytime, nighttime, daytime. So this is the daytime. And then I think I have the nighttime one over here to immediately spawn in first. Once that gets activated, then we've got the daytime that will spawn in via script. Let's see, spawn destructible sphere. Okay, so that's that one. And that is being controlled by the diagonal trigger here, this volume trigger. So when the player crosses that sphere spawns in, gets broken, and then when that gets broken, this sphere will spawn in. It's going to spawn in, and then it's going to roll down, but be stopped by this flag. And this flag is spawned in with a time limit. So about 300 seconds. So both of these flags will spawn in for 300 seconds. This flag will stop the sphere, and this flag will prevent this AI character from walking further. Once the flags unspawn, then the AI character will then run his way to the control zone, which I should turn that on. And it's a move and defend control zone, so he's running at a faster pace instead of just walking, because I think if you do the walking one, the sphere, while it's physical, will actually stop the character from moving. So having move and defend makes them on high alert, and they basically will just push anything out of their way. And that's what happens. He pushes the sphere into the fire pit. Because once you unspawn this flag, the physical property for the sphere goes away. You have to do something to re-trigger that physical property, and that's what the AI character does. So that repeats itself after every single sphere gets broken. And as you can see, we have a bunch of triggers here. Each trigger is for when each of these spheres are broken. And I think this one is for, yep, the first sphere there. So that's how the day and night cycle works. And the nice thing about it, though, is that you can set how long it takes for when the transition from day to night happens by selecting how long you want these flags to spawn in. The only issue with using an AI character is that you have to take into account the AI characters that spawn around the map. If the player is ever in a position where there's too much AI spawning in to, like, let's say, attack the player. So over here, I'll give you guys an example. Over here, we have the main hangout spot for the gang that's over here. A couple of AI characters spawn inside. However, if you just run your way in to this side of the the spawner, then you're going to get a bunch of AI characters that spawn outside to then try to attack the player that's inside the bar. So you have the game trying to spawn all these AI characters. So when the game's trying to spawn all this AI, sometimes it will unspawn the AI character for your day and night cycle. So that's the only issue, but the best way to prevent that from happening is just kind of have a backup plan. And that's what this larger sphere is. It's a backup plan. After the player kills every group of AI characters, so the main task in this map is to find and kill the group of gangbangers around the city. Let me turn on the icons here. So you have the objective marker here. You have a group of AI characters. So the player's got to kill all these AI characters. And every time they kill those characters, this sphere will spawn in for a limited time. Where's the script for this here? I thought I put it somewhere. Oh, here we go. So yeah, it'll spawn in for about 5 seconds. But that's going to occur every time the player kills each group of AI characters around the city. So it just creates a backup plan. Now, if you don't have any Wave 1 AI characters on the map, you will lessen the chances of your day and night cycle AI character from unspawning, because now you have all this room for AI characters to spawn in. The game's not struggling. Unless you are using these spawners and you are making a lot of AI characters spawn in with these spawners, then you're going to have problems. So here's our spawner. So we go to Object Preferences. And this is what we pretty much have set for this area. 20-second cooldown, 4 AI characters to spawn in. If you bump this up too high, you might run into that issue of your day and night cycle AI character from unspawning. Kills. So when the player kills 2 AI characters, then the spawner will reactivate, and then they'll just keep respawning in. So that's how that is set up. The rearm time is 200 seconds because this is for the AI character spawning in the bar. Once the player gets into the bar, that's it. No more AI characters are going to spawn in. I did originally make it to where if the player was out front, there would be constantly AI characters spawning into the bar and coming out to attack the player. But I just felt like that would be a little too much, especially if the player was right here by the entrance and they just kept seeing AI characters spawn in. So I didn't want that to happen. But once the player comes into the bar, that's when this spawner takes place, and it's pretty much right here in this entire bar. When that happens, you have all these AI characters around the bar spawning in, trying to attack you in the bar. Cooldown's 25 seconds. Wave is 6, so you can have a little bit more, and the rearm time is 10 seconds. So that just makes it to where you have constantly AI characters coming to attack the player. We do have some more spawners around the map, just to add a little bit of life. And these spawners are set up slightly different. The cooldown is every 10 seconds. Wave 1 is it's 3 AI characters for every time the spawner reactivates. And the rearm time is also 10 seconds. And you have to be very careful about the cooldown. You know, part of me is like, well, I'll put the cooldown to every 5 seconds. You have AI characters spawning in. That'll make the map more action-packed. But the problem is if the AI is spawning in, you know, at a faster rate, you increase the chances of players seeing AI characters spawn right in front of them. So you definitely don't want that. But also, I feel like it would have gotten annoying to just constantly have a bunch of AI characters attacking the player, you know? While that would add more action, it potentially could make it overwhelming. But 2, if your cooldown is very low, you have to take into consideration that the player may be doing things in this general area and not attacking any AI characters. They're just exploring around the map. And when that happens, let's say you have your cooldown every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, you're having AI characters spawning in the map, which is going to increase the amount of AI, which could potentially mess up your day and night cycle AI character. So you have to take that into consideration. This seems to be an okay balance where you have 10-second cooldown with a 10-second rearm time. And only having 4 or only 3 enemies spawning in at a time. And because the enemies are spread out, and this is such a wide area, let me remove icons and the scripting. Since this is a very wide area, it's not going to be every time 3 AI characters spawn in, because the game is going to try to spawn in AI characters that are way too far away and immediately take them out of the map. So on average, you get maybe 1 to 2 AI characters respawning, and that seems to be just enough. You know, but I would probably bump it up to 4, which it was at 4, but it felt like there was too much AI characters that were spawning in too fast. So I felt like that would be too much for a player, and I didn't want it to be overwhelming and annoying. So, but that's how we have this set up. We have these spawners around a whole neighborhood in a couple of areas. Now, if you're in the heart of the spawner, you know, you're going to tend to get more AI characters and face more AI characters, but on the edges, not so much. And I didn't want to put spawners everywhere in the map because you want to have those areas where players can just explore and not worry about an AI character showing up or an enemy showing up to try to kill them. So I didn't want to do that. And that's how I think we have 3 spawners per city as far as large spawners, but then we do have a couple of hotspots is what I was calling them. And these hotspots are basically areas where you get a lot of AI characters that spawn in, and let's say a warehouse or a base, and the player can take them out. And that's what we have here. You know, when the player shows up on a boat or crosses this bridge or gets close to this dock area, you get maybe 3 or 4 AI characters that spawn in. Depending on how long it takes the player to get in position, or if they are taking their time and they're scouting the base, the cooldown is low enough to where some more AI characters will spawn in, and that will at least add a little bit more AI characters to face when the fighting does begin. So if you are wanting to build a city in Far Cry 5, I would highly recommend using generic shapes for sidewalks. Ideally, you may be wanting to use the Watchdogs sidewalks, and that's just a no-no. I learned that playing or building this map to not use the Watchdogs sidewalk, because this is what happens. I'm using Steve64B's editor mod, and this is going to he has a feature in here where you can in detail see the budgets, which is very nice. So as you can see, we're just slightly under budget with certain things. As you see, we have the objects. We're at 6,989. If I crossed 7,000, the map would not have been published to consoles because it'd be too high of budget. But keep an eye on this budget, this object count right here. Keep an eye on that. So it's at 6,989. Now I'm going to use a Watchdog sidewalk. It looks nice. It has, you know, rough looking texture, cracks, and they're not in a pattern. So they look nice. They look natural. Let's plop this down. We were in the 6,000. Now we're in 7,000. 7,013 on the object count. And we were at 6,989. That's how much it jumps up. So if you want to build a city map, do not use these sidewalks, because you could use all that space that those sidewalks have to add more detail to your map. And when I was first building this map, I was using the Watchdog sidewalks. And by the time I was done, I looked at the object count, and I was already up at 6,000. And I didn't have any detail. I didn't have any gameplay objects. I didn't have any, just any other objects to help form the city and make it look legit. Detail and some buildings, I wasn't even finished with plopping all the buildings down yet, and I was already at 6,000 on the object count. So I had to redo all the sidewalks and just do generic shaped sidewalks, and because of that, it allowed me to make this map. And while it's not, you know, really detailed, at least it doesn't feel like, you know, there's really empty areas, especially if you look at the map from a distance. Let me turn the water back on. If you look at the map from a distance, it actually looks like a filled city, you know, and that's what you really want to go for, at least. And that's what I would recommend. Don't use the Watchdog sidewalks if you're building, or if you want to build a large scale city. Use just the regular generic shapes for sidewalks. And yeah, use buildings that don't have you know, objects that exist, or like prefabbed objects or building structures. Just always choose an empty building. And the Watchdog buildings work very well too, because they only increase the object count by 1. So you can add a lot. So always be on the lookout for avoiding any objects that's going to take up a lot of object space. And those sidewalks, those will definitely do it. Don't use those. All right, so yeah, we have the golf course here. This is a mini game that you can do. Originally, I was going to put hole-in-one, but yes, due to object budget constraints, wasn't able to do it. But how this is set up is we have, of course, the flag. We have a hole, which was caused by the hole tool. So I made a hole, and then I made the actual little, I don't know what they call it, but the little cup, we'll just call it cup. I guess you could say hole as well, for the golf ball to go in, with quotes, golf ball. But it's a tube, and when the player shoots the rock in this area, it falls through these letters, because the letters are not physical. They don't have a physical property, or they're not a solid. They don't have a solid property. So any object can go right through it. So the rock passes through it, falls down, lands on this physical object, which will then knock the object into this fire jet effect. When that happens, the firework effects spawn in to let the player know, hey, you made the shot. So that's how that's set up. So we have the actual minigame activated script. So the player walks into the volume, they'll get teleported up to here, where they're told to pick up this slingshot so they can use the rock from the slingshot to make the shots. So what's going to happen is 4 objective markers spawn in, right? Now, if the player makes a shot, you don't want all of the objective markers to unspawn. You only want that specific flag that has the objective marker to unspawn. But what happens is if you are using the same object on a script and you use a trigger to, let's say, remove the object marker, it only picks up one of those objects. Because for some reason since they're all the same, the game can't separate the fact that it's literally a different object and it should be a different trigger for each object. But the game can't do that. So if you have all the same objects spawning in on a script and you even select all 4 of them to be different triggers for another script, it will only funnel down to one of those objects. And if the player hits the right object, it will then activate the other script, which in this case would be the objective markers. So what was happening was all 4 objective markers were unspawning, even though I only made 1 shot. So I had to end up using different shapes. So that way that glitch couldn't happen. But then I realized since I'm spawning these in, they would have a physical property and then they would fall in the fire pit too soon, so I couldn't do that. But I just left them all as different shapes. But yeah, that's a script lesson there that I learned doing my Bradbury Canyon map. It'll save you a lot of headache if you know how to avoid those little errors in the scripts. So that's that mini game. Of course, we have the 4-wheeling mini game, which is not really anything unique or interesting. And then we have the gun shops, 2 gun shops. Then we have the dancing palm. We have a sound volume, so that way, you know, your guns that are firing, it sounds like you're indoors and not outdoors. And no mods in here. There's no mods in this map at all. So in order for it to be compatible to console, I wasn't able to use mods. So you have to use the items that are in the vanilla editor. So yeah, downtown, the city lights, from a distance, these look really nice because you have the, especially at night, but you have the city lights on the skyscrapers and those look really nice. And the object that I'm using is called a garrison beam. I'll go ahead and pull one of them out. It's called a garrison beam. And if you reset the tilt, this is how it normally is when you pull it out of the object selection. All you have to do is just turn it upside down and then just slightly curve it to where it kind of goes inward to the building. But make sure it's not poking out the other side, because the thing goes on forever, it seems like. But that's how you can create city skyscraper lights. And they look good in the distance, especially if you're playing on a higher quality. They look really nice. But if you're playing on low quality, you have to avoid that. I was actually going to try to put these in other buildings around the map, so it looked like the whole city was somewhat lit up and it would look like an actual city. But because certain objects weren't spawning in on low quality, like you can see these garrison beams over here. Actually, are they called garrison beams? Yes, garrison beam light. But yeah, even over here, the buildings unspawn on low quality. So, and I didn't know how console was as far as the quality and how far things render. So just to be on the safe side, I didn't put the beams in every single building for that reason. And look, just right here, none of the buildings over there spawn. So I didn't want to put it there. And there's a helicopter. So I didn't want the player to be flying around in a helicopter and see the beams sticking out. But if you set them up right, looks great. I think if you end up doing a city map and downtown's at the heart of the map, I think it would work really, really well. You wouldn't have to worry about that too much. So yeah, this is Paradise City. I think I covered at least all the interesting aspects as far as like scripting and some of the spawners and how the spawners are set up. The spawners are not 100%, you know, you're really gonna have to tweak it, you know, play your map, go into these areas and just tweak it to your liking. And then if it ends up being tweaked perfectly to how you like it, kind of scale it back slightly. So that way, because for me, I will make it and I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm having a good time. AI characters are spawning in left and right and having a war in the streets. It's fun. But you have to think of also the skills of other players. Also, people are exploring your map, so they may not want to deal with constant AI characters coming at them. So whenever you think something's perfect, kind of downscale it a little bit or dial it back just a little bit, just to help create a better balance. So that way you're not getting too many downvotes. Because I know if I did it how I wanted to do it, the map would have definitely been worse received, and it would have been annoying. You wouldn't be able to explore because every 10 seconds or 5 seconds, AI characters are constantly spawning in, and that's just not fun. Unless your goal, is to just have an all-out war and go crazy, then it's fun. But that's why I would rather recommend doing these hotspot locations where it's a small location where if a player wants to have an all-out battle, they can do it. I just wish I picked a better location instead of it being the edge of the map. But yeah, so that is Paradise City. And if you guys would like to play it, it is available on all platforms. And I think that's going to be it for this one. You all take care now. See you.